So is Islam the religion of the black man? It is a black religion, but it is not the religion of Israel. These Western African, Igbo, Yoruba descendants of the transatlantic, us black folks in America and scattered everywhere, it is not our rightful religion. Absolutely not. Were our people practicing it? Yes, that's where it gets complicated because we were forced to, just like Christianity, right? But our rightful practice is the heritage given to us by the Most High Yah himself, that is the laws, statutes, and commandments, the practice of Torah. Nobody has it perfect. It's like medicine. It's an art form. It's a practice. Because especially in captivity, we're learning how to keep these laws, statutes, and commandments in the faith of Yeshua till he comes, redeems us, and takes us back to that land. Today's video, we're going to be dealing with Islam, you guys, and we're going to set this up for when we go into the Nation of Islam, when I prove to you guys that the Nation of Islam, the black Muslim organizations, the Moors Science Temple, Moor Zion Temple, all of these black power movements are saying the same thing. When you look at the conception of these groups, right? Their founding fathers, if you will, all believed that black people were the biological descendants of the children of Israel. So that's why we're going to do this video on Islam, because a lot of pro-black woke people argue that Islam, they even see this and think I'm a Muslim, I'm gonna blow up a plane or something, right? A lot of people argue that Islam is the rightful religion of the black or African people. We're going to deal with that. African Americans, so-called, Crayola color blacks, so-called, we are actually Moorish descendants, right? So we went into the Moorish breakdown. We saw that Moor is similar to black, similar to Negro, but it also adds a historical context, right? Just like Negro, was used firstly in 1555. It is Spanish and Portuguese in origin. So the word Negro is a Spanish word because we're Spanish, Sephardic, Israelite descendants, right? E1B1A, transatlantic descendant people. We come from West African tribes that have this oral tradition, right? So Negro is Spanish. Moor is also a Spanish word because Moor was used during the time of the Moors, right? From 711 when they ruled to 1492 when they were banished, right? The Moorish people were the African, Maghrebian, that North African region, right? Morocco, Algeria, Libya, the Maghreb region of Africa. These were the indigenous Amazigh Berber Moors that we talked about. Daya, El Kahina, Abraham Ha'afrati, the Afriat Ephraimite family of Morocco, the Jewish Virtual Library. We talked a lot about that stuff, you guys. So we also looked at, y'all check this out, Light and Truth. Y'all get this book. It's on Amazon. So Light and Truth showed us some powerful stuff, y'all. That the word Moor, or black or Moor, or Negro, or swarthy, or nigger, all of this falls under Moor in terms of its definition. We also see the white people in this book do a wink wink moment where they say that the Micah, the Morashite prophet, was sent to the Moors or the Judeans, right? So we see that they knew that the ancient Moors were Israelites. The indigenous Moors of North Africa and Spain or the Iberian Peninsula were actually Israelite descendants, right? The word Moor just means Negro, right? Or dark-skinned African indigenous people, which ethnically speaking, they were tied to the ancient Ivri or Iberian Hebrew Israelite people. We went through that, you guys. Right. So not just that. I showed you guys the textbook of the origin of the colored people that goes into these black Portuguese that were planted on the west coast of Africa when they were banished. King Manuel, King Ferdinand, Queen Isabella, all of these Europeans were kicking out these Moors, these Israelites, because they was tired of the monopoly we had on the money and all that stuff, y'all. We ran away with the bag on the Moors. So the European North was at war against the Moorish South. Now I will repeat. Some Moors practiced Islam. Yeah, they're setting it up for today's video. And a lot of them practiced Torah. Cities in Spain, such as Granada, specifically the Albayacin district. Y'all check out that DNA video. The Albayacin district, which you will find on your My True Ancestry, was the Jewish ghetto quarters. It became the Jewish ghetto part. It was on a hill. Albayacin is a hill in the district of Granada. But indigenously, Albayacin was the hub for the ancient Iberian or Israelite David families. These Israelites that have migrated, that have been in Spain since antiquity, right? So we saw in this book that these black Portuguese planted themselves on the west coast of Africa. A lot of them were banished. A lot of them escaped out of Portugal and Spain. But also in point number 2 on the last page of this book, it says that we find an original colony of Judeans originally from Judea who are blacker than Africans who are black, right? So we went through that history. We also, you guys, talked about J.A. Rogers. J.A. Rogers is another scholar that talked about the prominent Sephardic Jewish families, right, that were Negro. The Yahya Negro family, the Abarbanel family. They changed their name to the Mendez when they were trying to blend in and be crypto Jews, when our people were trying to pretend like we were Christians. And not just that, but we talked about the havoc that the Christian church was wreaking against Israelites. Harvard level scholarship. Joseph Christoph, the Jews and the Moors of Spain. The online copy even has the Harvard stamp in it, but this copy I got off Amazon. But so the Jews and the Moors of Spain talks about how our forefathers, if they found out you were naming your kids Hebrew names, if you were trying not to eat pork, if you kindled a fresh fire on the Sabbath, if you wore fresh clothes on the Sabbath, if you kept feast days like the Day of Atonement, they investigated your black behind, and if they could prove it, they would give you an opportunity to convert to Christianity, or they would burn you on Sunday worship services. Watch this now. So we talked about the Jews of Spain and Portugal by E.H. Lindo, Harvard stamp. I'm gonna show that on the screen, right? He talked about how a Negro who they found out was a impostor, they investigated him. They called heresy to this Jew, this Israelite that's practicing Torah. And they grabbed him by the hair, because a lot of our people went natural, grabbed that Negro by the hair, and burned him alive at the doors of the church. Why these white European Christians of the North are crying, hallelujah, praise Jesus. This is history. This is Harvard. This is scholarship. This ain't even up for debate. This ain't no conjecture or no emotional Israelite. This is factual. Straight receipts I'm dropping, right? So, not just that, y'all, but we talking about how in 1492, when our people were banished, the professor, the historian, Heinrich Gratz, he estimates that somewhere between 400 to 800,000 Israelites fled out of Spain when they were banished, and they went into Morocco. I'm going to show that on the map, that Gibraltar Straits that connects Spain and Morocco. You can walk into Morocco. It makes the most sense. The Christians are up north in Europe. Our people got banished. They went straight into Africa. That's the first place they went. The Jewish people will say that they airlifted all these Moroccan Jews somewhere between 350,000 and took them to the land of Israel. That is not factual. A lot of these Moroccan, Sephardic, prominent Israelite families migrated into West Africa, you guys. And we see that in the critical annals of literature, where they were banished, and it even calls them the Negroes, right? They were despised by their own people, right? Because you had different things going on in Africa. You had a lot of different Israelite groups. You had some black Portuguese that they had converted to Christianity, that they planted in Africa to try to corrupt the Israelites that were doing their own thing already in Africa. It was a bunch of chaos. So in the slave trade, if you hear somebody say, well, y'all saying Hamites sold other Hebrews, I'm gonna be honest, you guys. There were Hebrews selling other Hebrews. There were other Israelites, chieftains in West Africa, among the Igbo and the Yoruba and the and Gadangbe, all these people. They were other Israelites, y'all. Let's just keep it straight. That were selling Israelites. There were some Hamites that were selling out Israelites, but there was some Israelite on Israelite crime as well, you guys. Why? Out of fear, right? Our people were afraid. They're trying to protect themselves, so a lot of them just turn their back on their own people. This is just history, you guys. I just got to keep it straight. So we talked about the oral tradition of a lot of these West African tribes that confirm all of this history, that a lot of these foundational tribes like the Igbo and the Yoruba of Nigeria, their origin is Israel via Eri, the 8th son of Gad, and Oduduwa, who is one of the descendants of King Jeroboam, where the name Yoruba comes from, King Jeroboam, Samuel Johnson. They named it after the people's oral tradition. Their origin being linked to Israel is different from the Sephardic families that were coming in. the B'nai Ephraim group that came among the Yoruba knew that the Yoruba were their people, right? So I'm gonna show y'all some scholarship. Harvard, Dr. Tudor Parfit in his Black Jews of Africa and the Americas talks extensively about the origin of the Yoruba being tied to Israel. Now, he doesn't really necessarily try to defend it. He just lists this what the people been saying. He tries to take an objective standpoint, which I ain't really mad about. But he talks about that in his Harvard textbook about the Yoruba and the Igbo. His protege, Edith Bruder, an Oxford level in the Black Jews of Africa, she talks extensively about the Yoruba, but the B'nai Ephraim on pages 145 to 148. So, but not just that, you guys. I already talked about Dr. Rudolph R. Windsor. He's where a lot of Israelites talk about the over 1 million Jews upon the fall in 70 AD of the Jerusalem temple. Over 1 million fled into Africa. But he also talks about the Yoruba B'nai Ephraim. That's another source. So, and I think we already mentioned about Oladuda Equiano, how he talks about, now this is the first autobiography by a black person, and this was published in 1787. He talks about the customs of the Igbo being directly tied back to the practices of the Jews, 8th-day circumcision, 8th-day naming ceremonies, the purification ceremonies and sacrifices, circumcision. Y'all check this out. The Nigerians have the highest rate of circumcision in the world. So when you hear that Christianity, oh, you know, these white folks brought us Jesus. Our people already had Yeshua. We already had the tenets of Torah, the prophets, the laws, statutes, and commandments, and we were keeping them higher than any other people. To this day, we're still practicing that. The Igbo and the Yoruba in Africa, higher than any other people in the world. This was always our culture, you guys. They don't eat pork to this day. I talk to a lot of Yoruba family, and I'm so grateful for this platform, this channel, that I get to interact with all these brothers and sisters that vouch for everything I'm saying. So y'all, I got receipts. I got Harvard. I got Cambridge, Ulysses Santa Maria, the oral tradition. I got the Jewish Encyclopedia. I got Yoruba experts and people that live over there, people that are in the Americas that come from that people, that know the oral tradition. Facts, receipts, y'all. We ain't playing with it, right? Ain't no more calling myself no Crayola color. We got receipts. So now, you guys, we're gonna go back to the whole Moorish and Islam discussion. With all this being said, is Islam the religion of the black man? I know that was a long kind of prelude to it, but, and I went that route to kind of show you we are Israel. But if you go to Africa, you will find a great deal of Islamic Muslim practicing Africans, specifically located in the northern regions. And even if you look at Nigeria, the Hausa of the north are more known for practicing Islam than the South. The Yoruba is like a 50-50 toss-up, and then the Igbo are predominantly keeping Torah, or they're Christians, right? So a lot of Africans will say, well, I come from Mecca and the Prophet Muhammad, this, that, and the other thing. You have to know the history. You guys check out that DNA video that I dropped yesterday. But in that video, it talks about how a lot of our forefathers were forced to convert to Islam. I repeat, a lot of Torah practicing Moorish Israelites were forcibly converted to Islam. This is where you get to the Maghreb, Morocco specifically. In Morocco, they were making these Israelites that were well known to have lived there, making them either convert to Islam or you gonna die, right? So now this was really an internal fight within a family, if you understand history, because all of these Moors we've already went over were Israelites by ethnicity, but a lot of them practiced Islam. The question, JB, is why? Okay, now there's a lot of different reasons. I'm not saying that my explanation is the chief reason. But in Arabia, you had a lot of diaspora Israelites that had lived there. You had some in Spain that we talked about, and you had a lot in Africa. Islam was this fresh wave, this fresh revelation, if you will, that if you look at the tenets, it does not go against anything that's in Torah, but it doesn't add anything either. So it's really like somebody doing their own thing, basically. But it caught a lot of steam and was able to unify Arabia, Africa, and the Iberian Granada Israelites. It was able to unify, kind of like the Nation of Islam. A lot of the Nation of Islam know that we're ethnically Israelites. Louis Farrakhan, a lot of these leaders, and I've done videos on that, and I can do some more, but you guys check those out. a lot of the Nation of Islam know who we are. But the Nation of Islam, if you look at it, is more organized, more well-known than Hebrew Israelites. Us saying that we're Israel is kind of a fresh awakening that the Most High is doing in this season. But we being the people has always been. But in terms of a massive group, a massive awakening, this is a fresh thing. Why do I bring this up? Because of the organization that the Moors that practice Islam had, they were able to galvanize so many of our people that they told those that practice Torah, they said, well, you stop doing it. And a lot of contention that the Israelites that were Muslims had towards Torah was the Christians. Because the Christians were trying to Christianize the earth, and the Roman Catholics had adopted Christianity as the major religion, they drew a lot from Torah, right? And they used that to substantiate oppressing Israel. They said y'all killed Yeshua. A lot of what you're keeping your heritage is closed-minded and discriminatory against other nations, and y'all think you better than everybody else, but the gospel helps save everybody. The same stuff Christians telling Israelites today. So our Islamic brothers said, no, we're gonna do Islam. We don't even want to be associated with them folks over there. We want to have a whole nother thing, even though we know we're the people. That was the weird thing. So this is where Islam kind of got rolling fast. And a lot of Israelites will say, well, I can go with that. I mean, we know we're the people, right? So they converted to Islam. And then they got higher ranked in society during the time of the Umayyad Caliphate and these different Moorish dynasties, the Nasrid and that kind of thing, right? So our people had a long history of becoming Muslims. This is why in Africa you got this beef where some people say that they Islamic Muslim, they come from Muhammad and Mecca, and this whole train of thought that's mainly in the north of the continent of Africa, but you'll find some even in Nigeria, but in the northern region. But really, when you go Bantu and that, when you go sub-Saharan, it's a lot of Christianity, and then you got Torah, and you got some weird pagan stuff as well. You have that with all people. But the point of me saying that is because it was so concentrated in the north, where Arabia was and where the Iberian Peninsula is, that's why today a lot of northern Africa is Islamic in religion. A lot of the flags of these countries have different Islamic imagery in them, right? Why do I bring this up? Islam is a originally black religion, right? It is indigenous to the continent. If you look at Arabic and you look at Hebrew, these are daughters of the African culture itself. But when you look at Islam, Islam stood out because it really didn't have any external European influence. You didn't see any really too many European Muslims. Now you had some sprinkled throughout, but it was primarily a rallying cry for the continent of Africa. That's why you associate more with the religion. You might see people say that Moors were people that practiced Islam, but you might see people say Moors were ethnically African. They became synonymous. It was the African rallying cry. That's what Islam was. This is the danger of that. I'm being objective as I can to let you guys know that yes, Islam is an indigenously African religion, but it's the same snare that European Christianity is, you guys. It has a lot of elements of defending God's people. Christianity comes from God's people. I mean, Christianity doesn't have a leg to stand on. And I'm talking about the Roman Catholic foolishness, right? It doesn't have a leg to stand on without the people of the book, without the heritage of the Israelite people. Islam's whole gravitas was that it unified a lot of these African Israelites and conquered our oppressors during that period. So this is where you get into the Nation of Islam. Well, it started with the Moor Zion Temple, the Moor Science Temple, the Nation of Islam, right? Why they feel that Islam is for us as a people, because it was how we overcame white supremacy in past dispensations. This is the stumbling block. Deuteronomy 28 prophesies that this would happen. He says that you would serve gods that neither you nor your forefathers have known, wood and stone. The Kaaba stone, the Roman Catholic cross. Right? Because these were never what God meant for his people. The Most High Yah never meant for us to have some organized religion we were part of. Our culture, our heritage, the way we ate, the way we lived, the way we kept Shabbat, the way we taught that to our kids, that was supposed to be our service to the Most High. Our service to the Creator was guarding our heritage, was keeping this not from a legalistic standpoint, but this is just who we are. This is who our God says we are. This is the lifestyle that he has given to us, right? The Most High divided each nation and gave them their roles and responsibilities. Israel's was to guard Torah. So the stumbling block is Islam is this dangling toy that in captivity has a lot of our brothers and sisters that are for our liberation, that are for us being autonomous. They go that train of thought. But the only way to unify us as a black people is our ethnicity. And historically, we have always been tied to the Israelite tribes of Africa, right? Of Afriyat, of the Maghreb, right? So you guys, I'm gonna show you one final reference in the Jewish Encyclopedia, right? We're gonna read 2 of the pages where it talks about how a lot of the Jews, the Sephardic Israelites, converted to Islam by force of death, right? And Askia Muhammad, around the same time that we were banished in 1492, went on a campaign of finding Israelites and saying, you ain't going back to that. You're staying with Islam, or they were put to death or sold into slavery. There are slaveries that are still going on in Africa to this day where Islam is the ringleader of that stuff. Islam has been forcibly converting our people for a long time. So despite its claim of unifying the black race, historically we see that during the time of the Moors to an extent. That has never been who we are. That was some Arabian stuff that Muhammad came up with. And despite his intentions, that may have been this or that, that wasn't what we were supposed to be keeping as Israelite people. We were supposed to be keeping the laws, statutes, and commandments. So let's look in the Jewish Encyclopedia and read a little bit, shall we? So in the Jewish Encyclopedia on page 450, I'm going to start at the second paragraph. Well, no, let's go back to the first paragraph. I just saw something. The ancient links between Jews and Ethiopia and active Jewish proselytizing on the coast in the interior left traces of Jewish tradition and practice among the Ethiopians, the Berbers, that's the Amazigh people, and some African tribes. Now, you know they're going to try to minimize this stuff. In the 7th century, Arab invaders record only small scattered Jewish communities. And these lost the Greco-Roman influences and became Arabicized in tradition and language. Let's go to the second paragraph. In the 11th century, under Muslim rule, conditions for the Jews were generally good, but there were times of persecution. The Almohad Arabs in the 12th century prohibited the practice of Judaism in Morocco, and forcible conversion to Islam occurred. Now y'all check this out now. So our people were forcibly converted. Let's look at that next paragraph. Numerous Jews, including Moses Maimonides, went east to Egypt, and a slow recovery of the Jewish life, the heritage in the West occurred after the Almohad rule diminished. The expulsions of the Jews from Spain in 1392 set off migrations of refugees. Some were practicing Jews, but later this group included conversos who wanted to go back to Judaism. So that means that they were Islamic, they were Muslims that wanted to go back to Judaism. This was not just crypto Jews that were practicing Christianity, or Moranos, Moriscos. See, our people were made to choose between this wood and stone for when we was in Spain, and even when we got banished. The Moors that were teaming up with us at one point said, you're gonna have to be this. You ain't gonna go back to your Torah. So when we thought we were free, you guys, we had another slave master. And if you guys know about the Arab slave trade, this happened before the transatlantic. And this was Arabs forcing our people to be Islamic. The history is what, if you do your history, you can see it tied to our people, but it's the same way Christianity is. A couple of truths and a lot of falsehood. So now let's go to page 451. All right. In Mali, several thousand people in Timbuktu claim some form of Jewish ancestry. Moors and Jews fleeing persecution in Spain migrated south in the 14th century to Timbuktu. part of the Songhai Empire. When you get into the Songhai, the Mali, these empires in West Africa and Lam and Negro land, these were Israelite dynasties, right? The Ashanti were prominent in this, you know, talking about the Songhai, the Mali. These were dynasties of Israelites that had genealogies. Even when you look at the richest man in history, Mansa Musa, when you look at the Beni Musa were said to be sons of Moses. So they don't tell you Mansa Musa was actually an Israelite. There's so much of this Moorish Israelite connection. So let's keep reading. Among them was the Kahat or Kati family, who founded 3 villages that still exist near Timbuktu, where we get from Babylon to Timbuktu, Dr. Winston. Askia Muhammad came to power in 1492 and forced the Jews to convert to Islam or leave. After this, Judaism became illegal in Mali. This is why the northern countries in Afriat land or in Africa, a lot of them practice Islam to this day. And this is what we say in Nigeria, the Igbo may be descended from the southern and western migrations of ancient Shemitic people and later Jewish peoples from the Middle East into West Africa. All praises. There are 3 groups: the Beni Gad, said to have descent from the tribe of Gad; the 8th son of Jacob, the Beni Zebulon, from the tribe of Zebulon; the 5th son of Jacob, and the Beni Manasseh, right? Manasseh. Beni Ephraim are different from other Nigerian Jewish groups as they live among the Yoruba. In western Ghana, the House of Israel community of Sefwi Wiawaso and Sefwi Swi claim that their Sefwi ancestors are descendant of Jews who migrated south through Ivory Coast. The practice of Judaism in this community is recent and dates back to the 70s. That's what these white folks say. When they got over there, oh, that's when it started. You don't know how long the folks was keeping that stuff, but this is what it said. The Abba Judea, a group founded in 1919, now consists of about 600 black Ugandans who practice Judaism in eastern Uganda. Y'all got to get this book, this Jewish encyclopedia. There are so many tribes that they list with ties back to ancient Israel. It's unreal. But I went to that to show you how our people were forced to convert to Islam. The founder of the Moorish Zion Temple was in fact Master Richelieu. The Moorish Zion Temple predates the Moorish Science Temple or the Moorish Science Temple of America. The Moorish Zion Temple by Master Richelieu, they taught that we were Moorish Israelites that were banished from Spain, that migrated and dwelt in Morocco and established eternal cities, legendary Jewish cities like the Afriat family and different groups all the way down westward to Mauritania. Master Richelieu taught this. He taught that we were Moorish Israelites. And he founded the Moorish Zion Temple. Y'all check this out, in 1899. Now, the Moorish Science Temple, we'll see, wasn't founded, let's scroll down, until 1913 by Noble Drew Ali. So Noble Drew Ali was a student of Master Richelieu of the Moorish Zion Temple. Another master protege, if you will, is Farid Muhammad, because Farid Muhammad came under the Moorish Science Temple. He was under Noble Drew Ali, and even suggested that he was Noble Drew Ali incarnate. And y'all check out that video by a Mexim. Shout out to a Mexim doing a great work teaching our nationality being Moorish, our ethnicity being Israel. Y'all check out that video where one of the chief beys goes into that history, how they have documentation that Elijah Poole and Farid Muhammad were both students under Noble Drew Ali. So we looked at that on the last video. We looked at this Moorish Awakening website that went into Moorish Zion Temple being founded by Rabbi Leon Richelieu in 1899. Y'all, this history is so important. This is our African history. This is our African American so-called history, right? It goes back to these Moorish Israelites. We have to understand these organizations, but mainly by understanding our history, we're going to run into these organizations because all of it is linked together. That we are Moorish Israelites. This is how the Moorish Zion Temple by Rabbi Leon Richelieu, and he was a rabbi, y'all understand, and he was influenced by Frankish Cherry and a lot of them boys, William Crowdy and that kind of thing, that were teaching that we were the descendants of or biologically the children of Israel. And he founded his temple in Brooklyn, New York, you guys. It was revived in 1924
But even before that, you had in 1913 the Moorish Science Temple of America that started out as the Canaanite Temple in Newark, New Jersey. So the first name was the Canaanite Temple. Why is that? We looked at the oral tradition of the Yoruba, that Hugh Clapperton in 1820 said that the Yoruba were descendants of a Canaanite tribe. This is also mentioned in Tudor Parfit's work, Black Jews in Africa and in the Americas. This is by Harvard University Press, y'all. They know the Yoruba are linked to the ancient Canaanites, are the ancient Israelite people. And this was revealed by revelation to Rabbi Leon Richelieu and his protege, the Honorable Noble Drew Ali, the Prophet. It is rumored that Noble Drew Ali's parents were members of the Moorish Zion Temple. So why did I go through all this, you guys? This is setting up the origin of the Nation of Islam. Now on this site, it went into the history of the Moors, that under Tariq al-Zayed in 711, he galvanized Arabia. He went on and got those Ephraimites of North Africa together, made them convert to Islam, made our forefathers be Muslims, and under the religion of Islam, we conquered the European Christians of the north, those that were in the northern region of Iberia that Al-Andalus really wasn't a part of. The Christians still had a stronghold in Spain, even though the Moors conquered Iberia. It was mainly the southern Granada kind of region. So our forefathers, these Moors, these Israelites, conquered Spain, and they fought against the Christians. Now the Christians eventually started teaming up together, making it illegal to be a Moorish Israelite or even practice Islam. They did the Inquisition to search out these crypto Jews and these secret Moors. So y'all, Christianity was fighting against our people. But I go through this history to show you that Rabbi Leon Richelieu knew this when he founded the Moorish Zion Temple. Noble Drew Ali drew from this information when he started the Moorish Science Temple, and two prominent members of the Moorish Science Temple that we have documentation that their names were on the sign-in rolls were Elijah Poole, who would become Elijah Muhammad, and Wallace Ford, or Fareed Muhammad. Now let's just look a little bit about Fareed Muhammad, y'all. This stuff gets deep. So we're talking about the Nation of Islam, how it started out from this Israelite Moorish Zion foundation. So if you just Google Wallace Fareed Muhammad, Wallace Dodd Ford, also known as Wallace Fareed Muhammad, or Master Fareed Muhammad, he was the master builder of the Nation of Islam, drawing his understanding from the teachings of the Moorish Science Temple, and them drawing their inspiration from the Moorish Zion Temple. So Master Fareed Muhammad was the founder of the Nation of Islam. I repeat, Fareed Muhammad was the founder of the Nation of Islam. And this is where we as black people, so-called, have to know our history. All of these different groups are linked to the umbilical cord of us being the biological descendants of the children of Israel. William Crowdy, Frank S. Cherry. Black power began with the idea, because they couldn't prove it the way we can prove it today, that we by revelation are the descendants of the Israelites. So it was more spiritual and by revelation, but now we got My True Ancestry, we got 23andMe, we got Harvard sources, we got the oral tradition. Y'all talk to Nigerians every day, Igbo and Yoruba, that all attest to what I'm saying. So we have more access through technology and the internet and DNA to prove this. But how these brothers knew that in the early 1900s is by the Creator's spirit within them. There is no other way, you guys. But what it does show also is that all black power groups are linked. So you guys, I was looking up a lot about Wallace Fareed Muhammad and that kind of thing. And I got on YouTube and found a music video by Rick Ross. Now y'all excuse the language, but I thought it was interesting on how this brother and a lot of these rappers are a part of the Nation of Islam, affiliate with the Nation of Islam, and hold to some of those tenets like Jay Electronica and that kind of thing. And even Jay-Z is rumored that he has close affinity with the nation. But what a lot of them don't know is that the Nation of Islam historically came from the Moorish Zion Temple, and that these master builders knew we were Israel. And let me show y'all now where this stuff is all poetic, it's historical. the Iberian Jews' oral tradition of the Yoruba. These Imo Yokwayim speak a mixture of Moroccan Arabic, Yoruba, and Aramaic. This is a subtle reference to this Moorish Israelite Aramaic connection. Aramaic was the Babylonian tongue that the exilic Israelites spoke. It is not really Hebrew, but it is a language that Yeshua would have spoken when he was on earth. The black Yeshua, the historical Israelite of the seed of David. So y'all, this stuff is powerful. So let's go back to Wallace Farid Muhammad, shall we? So we established that he was the founder of the Nation of Islam. He arrived, in Detroit in 1930 with the obscure background, which is interesting. And he had several aliases. And he taught an idiosyncratic form of Islam to members of the city's black population. Now, this is the weirdest part. In 1934, he disappeared from public record. Y'all, when I first read this, I started searching everywhere. And you cannot find that much about this guy. Now, if you listen to the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, the Honorable Minister, my elder, Louis Farrakhan, he talks about how this was a manifestation of the Creator himself, Farid Muhammad. It gets deep, you guys. And how the chariots that I don't know how familiar y'all are with different Israelite camps, but a lot of the Israelite consensus drawn from the book of Ezekiel is that these so-called UFOs are actually chariots of the Most High Yah, Elohim Alahayim. These unidentified flying saucers, they move where the Spirit of the Most High leads them. I can do a teaching on that. It'll be a long one, and it's going to be deep. Where basically in the book of Ezekiel, it talks about how these chariots, they move based on the spirit of the angelic host. So it's not like they steer it, it's just wherever they think they are. And the ship moves at nanosonic speed to wherever the will of the Most High is inspiring the angelic being, and wherever it's some deep stuff, you guys. But I've listened to the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan that have talked about these chariots, and they believe this brother was snatched up. And it's weird because Elijah Muhammad, who was Elijah Poole, succeeded him as the leader of the Nation of Islam. And a lot of y'all have heard of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, who was the mentor of the Honorable Louis Farrakhan, as well as Malcolm X. And y'all, they have a copy of Malcolm X's Bible in the Malcolm X Museum. And in that Bible, he had highlighted Psalms 83 that said that the nations have taken crafty counsel against the children of Israel to wipe out Israel from remembrance. This is Deuteronomy 28. This is book of Jeremiah 17:4 that says that we would discontinue from our heritage. This stuff is deep, y'all. We are the Moorish Israelites. Some of those Israelites practiced Islam, and some of those held to Torah. I subscribe that Torah is the birthright of our people and the faith of Yeshua. That the law, statutes, and commandments as revealed to Moshe Hanavi is our birthright. But I do recognize a lot of Israelites were Islamic, and a lot of them today are practicing Muslims. So there is a deep history to that connects back to the Moorish Zion Temple, but it started with them knowing that we were the Israelites. So Wallace Farid Muhammad, you can't even find that dude's records. He was snatched up, and Elijah Muhammad became the successor, and his prominent proteges were Malcolm X and the Honorable Louis Farrakhan. Now, I don't know how the Honorable Minister's relationship was with Malcolm X. I've heard different things, that it wasn't necessarily the best, mainly because they felt that Malcolm X betrayed the Nation of Islam when he revealed what Elijah Muhammad was doing. Now that's a deep subject, you guys, but I will say this, that we have to be careful about our leaders not making them God. You know, these are prophets of the Most High, and the so-called black man, these Israelite descendants, we are children of our Father. So you can say that we are the creator in flesh, right? This is where you get the black man being the true gods of this earth, that mindset, because we're like our Father. We're made in the image of our Father. But you can't boost them ahead of the Most High. These are men that have flaws like all of us do. So I don't believe Malcolm X should have necessarily went that route and aired out the dirty laundry of his people and jeopardized the work. So I do sympathize with the Nation of Islam kind of turning their back on Malcolm because he did that. But Malcolm X too was a prominent leader that got a lot of this history out to our people and got black people so-called to start thinking autonomously, to get us to start thinking like a nation. So I'm not going to bash Malcolm X. I'm not going to get caught up in that beef. But there is a lot of history of that, you guys, with the Nation of Islam, the schism that was made from Malcolm X's remarks, and then Louis Farrakhan, and then the present Nation of Islam. But the point of this is to show you that historically they're all linked to us being the Moorish Israelites, right? During the last great Moorish Empire, it was headquartered in Al-Andalus or Andalusia. The Hebrews, Ibri, right? So-called Jews, but we are ethnic Jews, not practicing Judaism per se. Hebrew Israelite is the most preferred term, or more preferred term than Jew, which is embraced by the Ashkenazim, who converted to practice our heritage. It's crazy, y'all. They dress in all black today, just like our ancestors. Jacob did. He dressed up like Esau to get the birthright. Now you got Esau's descendants wearing all black, trying to lock their hair. It's some dark stuff, and they've tried to replace us, like Get Out and Us. I love Us because Us drops a subtle hint about that. Us being replaced by us. You have a people that have taken our history that are really the synagogue of Satan that the Most High is going to bust their dome. You right? But they converted to Judaism, took our heritage, took our history, whitewashed it. But in the golden age of Judaism, our people ruled the earth from 711 to 1492. And our empire stretched to the Americas. So you do have Moorish natives like the Choctaw Indians, the Chickasaw Indians, a lot of these indigenous groups. This is why I used to hear black folks saying that, you know, we're the Native Americans, right? And I had my grandma and them saying that we were linked to the Choctaw Indians and different stuff. These segments of Native Americans are linked to the Moors, i.e. the tribe of Gad, and a lot of Israelites that came over during the time of the Moors to the Americas. These Moors helped Christopher Columbus in 1492 be able to discover America. This is how that nigga, Christopher Columbus, knew how to find us, y'all. He had insider help, insider trading. Literally, it's crazy. And he had to get a license from Queen Isabella and King Ferdinand to engage in the slave trade. Why was Spain and Portugal crucial? Because they banished the Moorish Israelites. So all of Europe had to go through them to get these Yaya Negro Moorish Israelites. They had to get a license from Spain to be able to get these slaves and get the gold from West Africa and all this wickedness, right? So it's an extensive history, you guys. But the Nation of Islam is linked to the Moorish Zion Temple, which is founded by Rabbi Leon Richelieu, who taught that we were Moorish Israelites that were banished from Al-Andalusia. So it's some deep history. I do believe the Most High was with these brothers. Y'all got to understand. The Honorable Noble Drew Ali, the Honorable Rabbi Leon Richelieu, Fareed Muhammad. They can't even find that brother. I believe one of the angels snatched him up. Elijah Muhammad as well. They don't know what happened to him as well. So you got to be very careful when you're dealing with these prophets. When we talking about our ancestors and these leaders, these brothers was anointed by God. Did they have the whole picture? Maybe not, right? We might haven't heard a lot of the modern Nation of Islam teach that we're Israel, but I showed you guys the clip where Louis Farrakhan knew this history. So we have to honor our elders and our leaders because they might not have had it perfect, like Dr. King and his whole assimilation thing, right? I believe it was meant for our people to be segregated, right? To have our own autonomy, to have our own nation, to be like Black Wall Street. That was the spirit of the Most High. But I understood why the brother did what he did, because he knew that there were certain luxuries that white America had that they weren't going to give us textbooks. They weren't going to give us clean drinking water. We had to kind of go in and get accepted with them to be able to get our basic needs met. So it's a lot of deepness that goes into the liberation movement of our people. They weren't all perfect leaders. They were men with flaws. But if you look at the origin of these men and the ideologies that they subscribed to and coined, you will see that it was linked to us being the children of Israel. So with that, y'all, I hope this was insightful. I hope this was educational, you guys. But all of the oral tradition of our people being Moorish Israelites coming from Morocco, speaking Aramaic, all of this is substantiated by the history. We are Moorish Israelites. Is Islam the religion of the black man? No. Is it a black religion that our people kept? Yes. So you can see how some people say in order to get in touch with their ancestry and our history, they become Muslims because they believe that that's our religion. Yes, our people practiced it, but it's like Christianity. It's a little leaven that leavens the whole lump. It is not what we were meant to subscribe to. We are meant to keep the law, statutes, and commandments and practice Torah. It's like a doctor practicing medicine. You're not going to keep it perfectly in the land of our captivity, but this is what the Most High wants us to remember, the laws of Moses, until he returns and sends the spirit of Elijah, sends the Mashiach to regather us and take us back to the land. So with that, y'all, peace, love, blessings, and black power to the chosen people of the Most High Yah, Yoruba, B'nai Ephraim of the tribe of Joseph. I love you guys with the love of the Messiah. Shalom.